Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another episode. Today, we are going behind the enemy lines and talking all things Cardinals versus Seahawks, our Week 12 matchup. And of course, I got my guy here, Brandon, the Hawks Nest, that we're going to be bringing here pretty soon. But let me just give a real quick shout out here to the sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan here on YouTube, BetUS. If you're looking for a brand new sports book, BetUS is the way to go. Currently, right now, if you use promo code YouTube150, they will provide you with a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and 125% sign-up bonus on the following two. That's going to be up to $2,000 by using promo code YouTube150. Of course, bet responsibly and bet within your means, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's go and get started here. Let's go and bring up Brandon, a.k.a. the Hawks Nest on YouTube. What's up, man? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. I see that you've got the same allergy issues that were getting me a couple days ago, so I guess everybody's getting countrywide on this one. But
it is wild, right? It's just like a faucet. I just can't stop it. It's crazy.
I was taking the Zyrtec, and it was like the Zyrtec was like it was laughing at the Zyrtec. It was like ha 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 ha.
Right.
Give me like a few of those.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten worse today than yesterday. So maybe a little bit worse tomorrow. We'll have to kind of wait and see how it all shakes out. But big matchup coming our way here from the NFC West. Just implications all across the board. Obviously, with the Cardinals being a 6-4 and everybody else being at 5-5. Before we get started on this game specifically, let us know how you feel about the Seahawks season so far. Because up and down roller coasters, I guess the best way to describe it. How do you feel about this Seahawks team so far?
Yeah, it's definitely roller coaster is the best apropos, I think, description. It's one where it has been sort of hard to kind of pin where this team is at to understand calibrating. Like, okay, are we at the beginning of a rebuild? Are we kind of through some of the rebuild point and we're about to get to kind of maybe an ascending point? Oh, no, we got to get back to square one. And at varying stages of the year, you've been in varying states of mind as to what you might think, depending on the week. It looks like it's coming a little bit better together here as the year's gone along, which is good. This could have slipped right off the tracks a couple of weeks ago, losing 5 of 6 games. But the team has gotten a little healthier. Teams made a couple of additions that have also helped on top of it, and things have come together for the systems that they're trying to implement on both sides of the ball. And so that's been very encouraging overall in the grand scheme of things. But I'm not going to lie, Mike, you know this doing the roundtable with me, it's gotten dark at times.
Yeah. No, it absolutely has. And it's crazy to see the up and down here of the NFC West just in general, because it's not just you. Obviously, the Rams are going through the ringer with injuries to begin the season. 49ers, we don't know if Brock Purdy's going to play this week. So it's I feel like the NFC West is getting hit hard with the injuries. Now, let's segue into that real quick here. Is there any big notable injuries right now? I know while we're recording this, it's Friday. While we're going to release this, it's going to be Saturday. But is there anybody right now that you're like, oh, man, I wish we had him in this game? Or does everybody look fairly healthy?
Man, everybody's for the most part, really healthy. Even the places we might have some injuries, like Rashawn Jenkins, starting safety, being out. Kobe Bryant has slid into that role and kind of done one of those things where he's taken it and he's not going to give it back up. It doesn't look like, as far as the starting job goes. So you've got some new starters in different places. Tyrese Knight, rookie 4th rounder, but you release the guy out, and so that's not really an injury. But no, you're pretty much good to go as far as all things considered. Uchenna Nwosu, maybe our best pass rusher, is still out, but we have still plenty in the reserve to get it done on that side of it.
Yeah, for the most part, we're pretty darn healthy as well. We might not have Jalen Thompson, which is going to be our starting safety next to Budda Baker. That can be a little bit of a concern, but we do got our rookie and 4th rounder, Dadrian Taylor-Demerson, which stepped in from last week and actually did pretty darn well. Let's segue into rookies real quick. How do you feel about the rookies so far? And we don't have to go through every single 7 rounds, but just the first 2 round rookies that you got so far, have they been impressive? Have they been subpar? What do you think about your rookies so far?
Well, Byron Murphy's was a really great talent, and you had about 14 straight offensive players taken off the board before Seattle kind of came up there, which really gave them a chance to have a defensive guy that was real high on their board to fall to them, because everybody went offensive crazy in that opening first round. What's happened with Byron, though, is he's really a 3-tech. He's about 295. He's got to be in that 3-tech role, and Seattle's not had good nose tackle play this year. So that's then forced Byron Murphy to be out of the 3-tech to the nose tackle. And if you look at nose tackles to the league, they don't put up a lot of production. It's already hard for defensive tackles to give you much as far as pressures and TFLs and stuff, but you're taking on double teams at the point of attack a lot of the time. You're not going to necessarily, you're just there holding the ground. And he's doing really well with that, but it's not allowing him to do kind of the splash stuff that a Braden Fisk with the Rams can do, who's just pinning his ear back, running the stunts 24/7, the guy that was taken in the second round a little bit ahead of him. So he's been okay. It's been a little bit disappointing with a guy like Christian Haynes, where Dominic Pooney by the Niners is drafted after Haynes, and he started at the right guard, same right guard spot Haynes starts at, but he's actually like a top 10 guard this year. And you go, ugh, you don't like when your division does that,
Right.
you whiff, they hit, and your guy's really not looking like he's ready. He's supposed to be a pretty ready-made guard. Like, he's supposed to come out being 2-year starter, good to go once he gets that. So he's been a bit of a disappointment. Tyrese Knight has maybe been just by maybe Byron Murphy, or right there step for step with Byron Murphy is the really most impressive rookie. Kid was a fourth round pick out of UTEP. Not a lot of high hopes for him, but he's big, he's burly, he can move, he's got length to him, and he's ascended to the starter role at the will linebacker role. Now, this is why you've released Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson both. Is Ernest Jones is in there now at the middle linebacker, but also because of this kid ascending and how good he's looking. So those have been the main kind of rookies to be notable. It's been an okay class. 6th round pick Mike Terrell started for right tackle a little bit, but it's been up and down for him. You wouldn't expect a lot from the 6th round guy, but kind of a quiet draft class. The guys that are good, but somewhat quiet.
Christian Haynes, I remember being pretty high on him coming into the draft. I'm surprised that he's not doing so good. I mean, I guess it's a good thing here for a Cardinal fan, because I know when you guys picked him, I was like, oh man, here we go, because that was a weird time where we needed a guard as well, and we ended up going, who was it? Isaiah Adams out of Illinois. So it was interesting. It was interesting to see how the Cardinals figured out. But so far, I mean, our draft classes look pretty darn good. So far, I think we have like 5 or 6 pretty impactful rookies right now. But we had a grip of rookies starting already for the Cardinals. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks versus Cardinals game. What is the identity when it comes down to the Seattle Seahawks? Is it truly Geno Smith? Chuck the ball deep, because as of right now, I think he's like number 4 in passing yards. Is that what it looks like? Is just throw the ball, Geno?
Well, it's sort of like your identity becomes the thing that you only really do well when it comes to offensively. And what I mean by that is that you have not any kind of real running game, not because you don't have the talented running backs, but because you do not create the holes in the running game for the running game to get anywhere. And there's games where I'll average a yard on the ground, even trying to run a decent amount. And so it just falls onto the grub, our offensive coordinator, and Geno, to have to kind of then carry the day offensively, because that's just not there on a weekly basis. You just cannot go to it. Even when we run the ball, Mike, it's like we don't run well until we're about 2/3 of the way through the third quarter. So it's been just a complete, deadlock through those 2.5 quarters. Then finally it'll get kind of going. But the offense through that time has been like, okay, we have to just throw this everywhere. So it's made it very hard to make this offense function. All the issues stem out of the offensive line. Now, things have gotten a little bit better here the last week or two, because we've gotten a center, maybe a potential guy at center, and Olotimi might give us an upgrade there. Guy that we were high hopes for, like Haynes, kind of you thought he'd initially start, then he wasn't able to kind of get going, and we kind of went, okay, well, maybe he's just not going to be the guy. Now he's come back last week, had, I think, an 80 PFF grade, which is good, and I'm not necessarily PFF as the end all be all, but we've only had one center who's had an 80 PFF grade in 7 years. And it was about 7 years ago that the last guy had an 80 PFF grade, just to put in context how bad that center. And this is just for one game. I'm not saying for a season. I'm talking just one game hitting that mark. So it shows you how low level the watermark has been as far as the performance of play at that offensive line in the center position in particular. And then you're getting Abraham Lucas back, who's a guy that I had a 1st round grade on him when he came out of college, out of Wazoo. I love the kid. We got him in the 3rd round, so you can only imagine. I was like, oh yes. But he's been injured for about the last year, but he is a legit talent when out there, and a guy that really could settle down this offensive line on top of the whole team. He can kind of get locked in there as well. But
absolutely.
It has been mainly that kind of a long way around on that one. It has basically been on Geno's arm to get it done. We're either going to sink or swim with him, basically. And outside of that, the team struggled to find an identity. You guys have yours really well locked in. Ours has been still kind of that searching game going on a week by week basis.
Well, I was going to mention the whole Geno Smith situation right now, because obviously he's up there when it comes down to passing yards, but 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. What is something that you've seen in terms of just, I guess, the play? Is that more just the beginning of the season, those interceptions kind of piled up, or is it something that's been spread out throughout the entirety of the season?
My impression is that if you put a quarterback under the amount of duress that Geno's been under, and there's a very strong argument to be made that you've got almost a league worst crew as far as an offensive line. Not everyone agrees with me on this. I've gone through plenty of debates on the roundtable there and other places on this one, but my belief is that if you put a quarterback under that much of pressure, and then you put that in conjunction with the fact that you don't have a running game and he needs to throw and score a lot of points to then win, what is that going to lead to logically? You're going to get a quarterback trying to play Superman, trying to make probably too many throws he shouldn't be trying to make. And the reason he's doing that is because it's worked out at times, because he has to do it if they want to win. Because if they don't do that, he can't fall in the running game, can't lean back on the defense. So it's, hey, this is either it or isn't. And I think that that's a situation that would be replicated if you did it to any quarterback throughout the league in that way. So I don't take much away from the interceptions on that, because this is going to be the price of admission when you're going to have an offense that has no identity, that can't run the ball, that can't pass protect particularly well, that has a new coordinator here coming from the college level who's still learning how to call offenses at a pro level. You throw all that together in the mix, in my opinion, on this, and it's just mine, that I think you're going to see, and this is why I'm so pro Geno, is I think you put most quarterbacks in that situation, Mike, I think they fail. I think
Yeah,
they
that's
just
fair.
outright fail. We're not talking about the 11 interceptions, but leading the league in passing yards. We're
Right.
talking about a guy that fell on his face, and
Yeah.
Geno has not done that.
All right. Well, let me ask you about this real quick. Cardinals versus Seahawks here. I really do think you got one of the best wide receiving core. And I said this in the beginning of the season, and now the emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba within these last couple of weeks. Obviously, Tyler Lockett has done really, really good things, but obviously he's getting up there. DK Metcalf, I think you could definitely put him up there. Who do you think is going to be that wide receiver that's going to go off in this game? Like, if you look at the matchups between the Cardinals, because we got a young secondary right now, like promising, but young. Like, we can get burned on a 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 9, right? So who do you think is going to be that one wide receiver that's going to take the top
Well, the
off?
thing I was looking at, I was trying to take a look at who your guys' slot guy is right now.
It's
Who is
it's
it?
Garrett Williams.
Well,
Yeah.
Garrett's going to slide inside on that. Okay. And
Yeah, yeah.
then on the outside, you're going to be doing Murphy Bunting and Max Melton.
So it's actually Sterling Thomas over Max Melton. So it's going to be So here's the thing. Like, if Max Melton doesn't go, the way I look at it, it's going to be on the two outsiders. If we have that nickel, it's going to be Garrett Williams in the slot, Sean Murphy outside, and then also Sterling Thomas the fifth on the outside too. It's usually how they work
Okay.
it.
Yeah. I would say that I know Garrett has really come on for you guys as a corner there,
Yeah.
but Jackson Smith's really coming for us the last couple of weeks. I think he's had two of his best, probably 3 games as a pro
Yeah.
for us the last 2 weeks. And so he seems to be really locking in with Geno, where the DK injury seemed to allow Geno and DK to kind of get their sort of chemistry right. And last week you saw a real good balance between the usage of DK to JSN, whereas at times this year there's been so much of an onus of getting DK truly into that sort of number one role, where in the past they haven't utilized him like a number one by targets, by utilization, by just making it a point of emphasis. So they're doing more of that. That kind of pulled, I think, a little bit from JSN early on in the year. Last week, you had a real nice balance, 7 catches to DK, 10 catches to JSN. And I like our corner. I like us against your corner matchups on the outside like that. I think with Garrett Williams, he can probably hang in there with JSN pretty good, but then you still have a Lockett on it, Sterling
Right.
Thomas. Lockett's not where he was. He's kind of in
Right.
probably a swung song kind of situation here this year, but still can be effective and still, give you a couple of catches a game that can be just vital on offensively getting it done, especially down the field still, back shoulder throws and whatnot. So I think that's an advantage for us. I do. I don't know if we've got the strongest receiving core. We have a very strong receiving core. And the thing with DK and what he does and beyond the production, the catches and all that, is he's one of the more top double teamed wide receivers in the sport. And that
Right.
just opens so much other stuff up offensively when you're getting that bracket coverage over the top to how you can attack all over through the rest of the field.
What are you worried about when it comes out of the Arizona Cardinals, either offensively or defensively?
Ooh.
What do you see and say, oh man, if they get this right, this could be a nightmare for the Seahawks? Or do you think we could just match up very, very well with you guys?
Well, I think you match up well with us. I think the intensity level, and we talk about identity,
Hmm.
that identity that you guys have forged here of we're going to be tough, we're going to play hard, both sides of the ball, we're going to be physical. I've watched every one of your Cardinal games this year, and that's been something that stood out in all of them, and partly why you've stayed in even games where, look,
Right.
Buffalo on the road at 10 a.m. A lot of teams in this division probably go out there and lose by 2-3 touchdowns. We lost by 2-3 touchdowns at home against Buffalo. So
Sure.
it's one where it's impressive to me to see what you guys done. You had the daunting opening schedule, but really what I come down to is that if you don't show up, and with my team, you've heard me talk about this a couple times in some of these
Hmm.
games this year, where you guys, I can watch this game and tell when my team's not, when they're collecting checks, when they're punching in, punching out. You know what I'm saying? That's what I note this with your Cardinal team so much, is because there's a lot of these players in this day and age, multimillionaires now, business decisions, not necessarily putting their nose in there like the full force of what they could do. Just make it look good on tape. Make it look good on tape. It's like
Right.
WWE a little bit. And I think that's where we were doing that a little bit at times early on in the year. And, we didn't match it. That's why the Giants beat us at home. We didn't bring that level of intensity, and your team's going to bring it. And if you don't bring it from the start against your guys' team, they will get right down on you instantaneously, push you down, put your guys' foot on their throat, and it's game over, which is what you've done to a couple of these teams this year. So it's as much as I'm going to be watching very early on in this game to make sure we come out and we're ready to, toe that line like you guys are and start swinging those punches. Because if not, you guys that's what you've done to some teams on that. It's a weird thing in the NFL that you don't get these guys up 17 game schedule every single
Right.
game like you think. You think as a fan, 17 games, how do you not get up for that? But I'm telling you, you can see it when it's not there. You can really feel it when it's not there. I saw it this year, and it's been different the last couple of weeks. So that's I guess, the
What do you think
encouraging.
that is? Because I mean, obviously, Mike McDonald, the first year, is trying to build a culture there. I think it's just
Mm.
culturally the old veterans that are there just have that mindset. Like, what do you think it is?
You do. I think you're touching right on the bullseye here with it. And what you had here a little bit in the prior regime under Coach Carroll was a
Yeah.
players friendly coach. Player friendly coach can win. They can go get championships like Carroll did. But there's a double edged sword to the players friendly coach, being that things get too loosey goosey in the locker room.
Yeah.
Guys get too comfortable. There's too much of a just be yourself. Just lean into your personality. And it's all these individual personalities, and then it becomes individualistic, and it becomes not as much team centric. And then things like accountability and fixing mistakes, these things start to slide off. And so it just to where it wasn't resonating Carroll's message at that time at the end, but the culture thing you talk about was also created that McDonald inherited. It's a very talented team, but it wasn't necessarily a team where you had all of those guys locked in that way they need to be locked in. And this is why you're releasing two starters mid-year, and Connor Williams retires, and you're seeing some of this turnover as you have to establish that culture, which is exactly the same thing Carroll did when he walked in the door 14 years ago. So it's not unusual, but I think that is what you're having to do. And that's why I said, you heard me last week, a couple weeks ago, saying, hey, maybe we got to go sell down. Maybe we got to cut some of these guys through. If you remember on the
Yeah.
roundtable saying, maybe, because this is when you've said the message and you've said it over and over again, and I know McDonald had, and he's teaching it, and Carroll had the same things he was saying. I've been teaching them, I'm telling them, they're just not doing it. Okay, well, you shake them out. You don't give them the starting job. You let the
Yeah.
backup in there that's going to try to work harder. You made it, because that message will resonate in the locker room, and you'll get guys who will wake up real quick, real fast.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals did that with DeAndre Hopkins, just absolutely flat route releasing him. And then with Isaiah Simmons, our first round pick, just traded away for pretty much a bag of chips, 7th round pick. But it was nuts. And I mean, I think that is definitely something that at the time I didn't understand as a Cardinal fan, especially when you just released DeAndre Hopkins. But I knew there was a lot of rumors out there that just got way too comfortable, didn't really show up, did not really put 110% when in practice, because when you reach a certain level of stardom, it's just the mindset, right? You don't have that dog in you anymore. And I'm not saying DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have that dog in him, but I'm saying, like, everybody looks around, right? Everybody looks at the veteran that's accomplished so much, and you don't want those young guys to replicate that. You don't want that. That's not the culture you want to establish. So yeah, the Cardinals had to do it. I understand now, and I'm full on Monty Austin for it. But let me ask you this before we wrap up here: what is your prediction? Cardinals versus Seahawks, Week 12. How do you think this game is going to shake out, and what do you think the score prediction is going to be?
Well, it's a little bit of as much as any pick I've made this year, this is a wish prediction as much as anything else,
Sorry.
because this year's been such a tough fought year, and it's finally seeming like we're starting to kind of slide some things together here, and you just like to see it click into place. So it's as much me making the prediction. I'll full disclosure on that, say that that's where this is coming from, is that I want to see this happen. I feel good about the team. I think they're in the best state they've been to be able to go out there and get this win against the Cardinals. That it's at home. I'm going to give us the nod on this one. I think it's a tough fought game, but I just think I like where we're at. I like where our offensive line's at. I like where the health is at. And I think that we've started to solve some of the run game woes here over the last couple of weeks with the Rams and the Niners this last week, two teams that contest you in that way, and we held up well. Ernest Jones has been a godsend there in the middle as far as that goes. I mean, it's been just a 9-day difference. So I'm going to go 27-24 Seahawks. You guys get your share of points. We end up getting a last-minute drive with Geno for a field goal at the end, and are able to pull it away there.
All right, perfect. Well, Brandon, thank you so very much for obviously
And
chopping it
real
up
quick,
here.
I want to be on the record on this one, by the way. I know I
What?
talked about this the other day, but I want it on the record because I've done this for Jesse in the past for years, and I've been right about on some of these players, and I always get
What?
these certain inklings about certain guys. Darius Robinson.
Mm.
Darius Robinson is going to be a baller for you guys. And I've been thinking about this week with him coming back again and just kind of contemplating getting back. I remember watching his tape. I really think he's going to be a really unique edge in this league. He's not going to win by the way typical edges are going to work through this league, but a guy that's also going to help you out with the run defense stuff, woes you guys have had, but he's going to be a player for you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, we're all pretty excited. It's trending in the direction that he might make a start, but even if he does, it's probably going to be like somewhere in the 20s when it comes down to snap count. It's not going to be something where we're going to just put him in there. And our defensive line is not one of those that like everybody has like 80-90% snap. No, they rotate with all the guys that we have. So I appreciate that. We're all pretty excited about, hopefully, maybe fingers crossed, we'll see his debut. But Brandon, thank you so very much for tuning in here. As always, if you do want to go and give him some love, that will be in the description below. And another huge shout out here to BetUS, sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan here on YouTube. Thank you everybody for tuning in as always. Have a great rest of your day, and go Cardinals.
Go Hawks.